Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, hold on. Okay.
Hi, Mrs. Montero. Thank you so much for joining this meeting today. I'm here to conduct an interview for Cypress College. I'm currently a student there. I'm majoring in chemistry and I'm taking an ethnic studies course. It's Ethnic Studies Introduction 150 Latinx Studies. And we wanted to know um, just a little bit more about mental health in the Latin community. Our research paper for our project is focusing on censorship in Latin productions. It's focusing on social justice for street vendor activists. We're also taking a look at the family dynamics of Hispanic households, and lastly, mental health in the Latin community. So we really do appreciate your input in this subject. So if it's okay, we just want to ask a few questions. Okay. First of all, before we start, if you could just let us know a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field.
Sure. I've been working in a large school district in LA for over 12 years in different capacities. I started off as a TA and then I went as a special education assistant. Then I became a long-term like substitute teacher. And then working with all the grade levels and special education, I decided that I loved special education, disabilities, working with that population specifically, and also my personal experiences really like are what influenced me to go a little bit further into special education. And so one of the routes in education is to do school psychology. And so that's basically the route I went, and I really love it. I think it's a very um, new field. It's developing still, and I like being part of, discovering what works, what doesn't work, and learning from like my mentors and part of like, our community and seeing like what kind of changes need to be made. So I think it's a very good field if you want to make like positive change, significant change in our community.
Thank you. That's amazing, especially you being of Hispanic descent to be serving in a predominantly Hispanic community in a new field. Um, it's it's interesting just to see the parallels in ethnic studies, the class I'm studying right now. It's a very new field itself. The movement started in the 60s and still ongoing, and we're still pushing forward for social justice in our communities. So it's really empowering to see someone of the community advocating within our community. So the first question we have is we wanted to ask, um, what is something that you hope the general public would learn about the work that you do?
Um, let's see, the general public. I think that there is too much emphasis on the academics. Um, and well, like, that's obviously like one of the main points of school, but when it comes to our communities, it's so much more that they need. So, we need to meet their basic needs before they even get to the academics. And that is something that my school and my mental health team, we really advocate for. Our school is a Title I school, so we get like extra funding because it's so high need. And on top of that, we're also part of like this list of 100 schools that are just extra needs. So our school is located by many different shelters. We have a lot of vendors around. A lot of our families, the parents are vendors. And so I would like the general public to know that school and education is more than just books, and standardized testing. There is a lot of learning going on all the time, whether it's like adaptation to social, norms or maybe, different community-based things. Yeah, there's just so much opportunities to grow and within a school.
That's amazing. Actually, I want to skip around now that you've brought up basic needs for our elementary kids and school kids, that it's just more than academics, it's further than that. I want to skip ahead in my questions and ask, how can we Latino people in our community and in our home support the mental well-being and development of our elementary kids?
Yes, so I think before you give to others, you have to be able to already be having your cup filled. So a lot of our parents are overworked, they're very stressed, and of course they're always working. But one of the things that I wish was more emphasized is school regulation, which is modeling, self-regulation by you doing it. So your nervous system is regulated and you're modeling that to your child. A lot of our communities still adapt to very old school ways of communication or, consequences and rewards or lack thereof. So I wish that they were a little bit more modernized in that way because they are in other ways. We always use the phone and there's a lot of resources, but that seems to still be a gap where we're still applying these really like antiquated ways of treating our kids.
Yes, yes. That's something I can actually relate to myself. There are very traditional ways of, receiving discipline in your household or receiving what may be intended as support, but sometimes we don't realize the consequences of what tough love can do to the overall success of a student and student outcomes.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's really tough to build that community if you haven't really learned those resources in your household. You don't really know how to go out and look for them because you don't know what to look for in the first place. Um, to to continue on that question, how do you think family dynamics in the Latino community affect academic outcomes of your students personally? Have you noticed like anything in particular that stands out to you or anything that needs that you address in your everyday work?
Yeah. Before I even mention it, I want to give like a note that there's never an implication that it's like, the fault of a parent or even the teachers or anything, but rather it's a very systematic fault why parents are not able to really, give to their kids in the way that they should. So, in the community and the population that I serve, is special education. So there's students with IEPs, different disabilities. We follow educational law and they qualified for special education services under 13 disabilities. Most of the disabilities that I serve are specific learning disability, autism, or other health impairment for ADHD-like behaviors. So those three are the most common. And something I see in those students is that usually it's a one-parent household, and usually it's the mother. So I have, spoken to a lot of the parents. That's part of my job, doing a in-depth interview. And it seems to be a common thing where the father left because it got very, very hard with the student, with the child that has, very special needs. Um, Not just, monetary because they struggle in that way too. They're, living in poverty, but also the lack of parent resources, training that they ended up leaving. So that is something that I see often.
That's really heavy to hear, and it's not uncommon. If you're even in proximity to the community, it's something you're familiar with, and I think our moms especially bear the brunt usually of just the hardships of life, and it's difficult. It's really difficult, to ask so much of one person to nurture a person to develop a mind when you're overworked yourself and overstimulated and just at your your ends with
Mhm.
it's I personally do hope in the future generations to come that there's a shift in parental responsibility and the division of labor when it comes to gender roles specifically. Um, it's something that makes me and a lot of my female classmates apprehensive about family planning and
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. just deciding whether or not to have kids or, you know, prioritize your career.
Mhm.
And it's complicated because, in Hispanic communities, a lot of our value as women is tied to motherhood and to domestic labor. So it's really important, I think, that you make it a point to interview the parents to understand the fuller picture and take a more holistic approach in how you help your students.
And my career, it is very specialized. It's still very narrow compared to other roles in the school. One of my favorite roles is the PSA counselor. She works very closely with parents and with the community. So they offer a lot of workshops to parents, and one of them was single mothers. And so how, they're supposed to be communicating, and if your child has an IEP, like how do you understand it? Here's an SEL curriculum that you can implement at home. So we have a lot of different resources, and I love being able to witness just the collaboration of a lot of strong women in a room. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing. It really takes a village and we can't do it alone. So it's really important that there are resources out there to help and empower these single moms. And then, so you mentioned that there's like community building within your job, not your specific position, but you've seen it around you as a support system. Have you had opportunities or avenues to build community in the department you work for? And has it made any personal impacts on you?
On me, yes, I think it's, encouraged me to kind of see things a little bit at a broader perspective and what's more pragmatic or not. So I went into the field being very, like an idealist, thinking, well, I'm going to change this and I'm going to change that. But then once you get into the field, you realize like the laundry list is so long and there's priorities, and you don't really have time or resources for the rest. So when it comes to the community, the main thing is to communicate constantly. So consistency with the parent, and to really give them space for self-expression, however that is appropriate for them. The part of being like culturally responsive is not responding to parent anger or parent, like that's something that we come across often. And I've heard, anger is despair. And that's something that we like always kind of remember, like they're communicating just like kids do through behavior. So yeah, that is something that I try to keep in mind, working with the community.
I see. And as far as working within the community, is there anything that we public could do to help advocate for student success? Or um, is there any just educational resources that we can partake in to help those students that are underrepresented in higher education?
Yeah, I think everyone, because we have so much access to technology, we could be like more involved with our government, the way that our money is dispersed, pushing the school districts to spend more money, release more funds when they have it, stored away. Because a lot of parents are paying out of pocket. Even though they're living, in poverty, they still pay out of pocket. Teachers are paying out of pocket. There's a lot of love and care there. We just need, the support, official support that, we have in power, like in people, like, in numbers. So that is something that, is very important. Personally, in my job, I think I forgot to mention this, but one thing I do commonly is I work with social workers, specifically DCFS. So Department of Children and Family Services, because we have a lot of students that deal with trauma, abuse, neglect. And so I, have open communication with them and also our local police department. So we have, advocated for like, let's get like another cop to kind of go around once more or like more, often on certain days that we know something's going to happen. Just like open communication in that way is more of how I participate. And it's more about like student safety and the community safety. That's how I'm involved more.
I see. And for our last question, we wanted to ask specifically more for the students. What skills do you hope the students which you serve, what skills do you hope that they can develop to help them navigate their academic careers?
I actually was doing a counseling session with a student today, a fifth grader, and I went into this subject, and it was the conversation between him and I. He's so bright, but he has a learning disability, ADHD and dyslexia. Dyslexia is considered a specific learning disability, about, phonological processing. So we were talking about how he hates school. He hates it. He thinks that, everyone's controlled and he can do his own thing. And, our conversation kind of went to, well, what is government? What do you hate about this? And then eventually it got to like the question, like, well, who is more easily controlled? Is it people that don't know how to read, or are they people who do read? Like, something like that. So he was like self-reflecting a lot, and that kind of like made him pause. And he's like, oh, like, yeah, I guess if I don't really learn, like, I won't know how to. So I guess for my students, I just want them to, self-reflect a little bit more and um, understand that they have a lot of power in changing things around them. And
Yeah.
it starts with like these foundational skills that right now doesn't seem like it's a big deal. I get it. We can use our calculator. Everyone does. You don't need to learn math, but there are reasons, why you are. And eventually I'm going to rely on you to take care of me because you're the next generation. So please, like, so I have, yeah, that hope that our children um, understand that they are the future caretakers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we were learning, not related. We were learning something related in class about how we use the intersectionality of our specific power and how to use it to get ahead or to understand within which barriers are you operating so you can work more effectively. And those developmental skills follow you, till your last day. And it's something I've learned going to college is just how much power I have, or just how far you can get if you just apply yourself a little and you're consistent.
Mhm.
But that was all the questions for the interview. If there's anything else you wanted to add or think we should know, but that would be the extent of the interview for today.
Um, Not really. I mean, I think that, both of our topics are very interrelated. There's so many like facets in the community that it's hard to encompass in like one interview. But um, yeah, hopefully this kind of gave more clarity in what I do and and hopefully um just to see like how beautiful the community is and like we all really collaborate. I buy sometimes like crystals from like my student's mom across the street. I just love being able to do that. That is our culture. Like, our parents are entrepreneurs. They're like hard workers. They always find a way to make, ends meet. That's why we have so many strong mothers because they always find a way. Mm.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. This is really important that we have these discussions, that we do our own research, and I've taken a lot away from this interview, just understanding all the different areas that are being addressed in special needs and new fields, as you said, that you're working in, and that this is still developing. And it gives me a lot of hope that there's still a lot under the surface to be uncovered, and there's more tools at our disposal that we just have to look a little farther to understand how we can move forward in society.
Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for everything. Have a great day.
Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.